Welcome one, welcome all. Roll up for the Magical Mystery Tour. Step right this way.
True North Review, True North Reviews, True North Reviews.
Hey there, welcome to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we are kicking off list season 2020. Gosh, 2020 was a bit of a doozy, to put it lightly, a year that I imagine many of us will not forget anytime soon, yet people will continue to try to cleanse it from their recollection. From the lockdowns, to the protests, to the political unrest, we've heard all the narratives before, and music's factor into the equation, by no surprise, is also a different one compared to previous years. First and foremost, and most obvious to come to mind with the notable lack of live shows, making it rather difficult for some artists to afford a living. Despite the trying or unprecedented times, honestly, take your pick for your favorite buzzword of 2020, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to throw another cliche at you right now. Music, in parallel with the chaos of 2020, makes us grateful for what we have, what we receive, and what we give in this world. An overly sentimental and corny way to start this video, but besides the recap, let's get to the real reason of why we're here today. Let's expose the trashy songs of 2020, the worst songs of the year, in my opinion. And I know what you're thinking. How could I have just said that music is so amazing, it makes us appreciative for what we have, it's a true blessing, and yada yada yada. I'm no happily ever after fairy tale kind of guy. We're still sticking to reality here. There's no good without bad, okay? Now, I've done us all a favor this year and trimmed this list down to the 10 worst songs, so no top 25. That should cut out some of the negativity, but keep in mind we're going to dig a little deeper into the 10 worst, okay? So buckle up, strap in, do everything you gotta do now to keep your eyes glued to the screen. If you have to use the restroom, I'd advise doing it now, because once this train leaves the station, there's no stopping the inevitable train wreck of the worst songs of 2020. Okay, so starting at number 10, we have Sia's Together. God, it all begins with the nauseating vocals, but piles on quickly with a hideously mixed kids choir on one of the most annoying choruses I've heard all year. Honestly, it makes me shake my head that Jack Antonoff had anything to do with the production on here. Not to mention the flavorless and stagnant sub-bass that permeates through the runtime. A meaningless bridge as well that whines about wanting love when the song does nothing to deserve that. It's a song like Together that makes me want to stick a fork in my eyes, and keep in mind this is number 10 on the list so far. Number 9, we have Luke Bryan and his song One Margarita. Now, Luke, he gives his fans a catchy song, I will give him credit there, but it's everything else that metaphorically puts the salt in the wound. First off, we have garbage lyrics that pander like no tomorrow, glossy and cheap guitars that are looped to death, and a bro country tune that makes you wish you could just take a shot to the leg instead of the 1 margarita, 2 margarita, 3 margarita shots that Luke is destined to have everyone drink, even though they're not from around here. Ugh. This next pick at number 8 is some low-hanging fruit as far as Jason Mraz tracks go. Nonetheless, hearing double is a pathetic excuse for a song to begin with. And yes, it's more of a novelty or joke, so I won't even bother trying to rank it higher on this list, but it's still worth mentioning. Whoever's idea it was to say everything twice, should be fired. Hopefully by me effectively saying things twice there, it got through to your senses that this is a terrible song. A couple lists removed from having one of the best tracks of the year, Trippy Red makes an appearance now in 2020 for having one of the worst. This is coming on his emo rock and pop track, Dreamer. Terrible singing on here, really just Trippy screaming with no sense of melody or tune. Aesthetically, the cut is much in the same vein as a Lil Peep song, but It's a mess and a disgrace, to be blunt. The guitars are grating, the sub bass is overblown to shit, and my tolerance frankly went out the window about one chorus in after hearing this for the first time. Moving on to number 6, my dislike for Demi Lovato's music has probably shown in a few of my videos before, but this next song is case in point everything that is wrong with Demi Lovato in my opinion. Anyone is a melodramatic piano ballad with soaring vocals. It starts out fairly tame, and quickly judging by the beginning of it, you'd be convinced that she'd be onto something okay or decent, until we get to that shouted chorus that just never seems to let up, which it does eventually end, just never fast enough in my mind. Desperately belting her way to the top of her vocal range, Demi just lets it fly. And I gotta give her credit for fearlessly doing exactly that here, but she does not sound in the slightest like she is singing. Between the slip-ups on the piano on the second verse that stick out like a sore thumb and Demi just screaming for attention, I don't want to hear this song anytime soon. It's more of the same neediness in song that I don't care a whole lot for, and with Demi doing it, it's by far the worst example. To the midway point of the list, number 5, it is Haley Steinfeld's Man Up. Geez, okay, so this song tries way too hard to expose toxic masculinity, and hear me out, I hate it just as much as the next girl would. But when you tackle this subject matter in the same way Haley does, it just comes off as bitter, petty, and not very conducive for a logical resolution. She's essentially fighting fire with fire and sounding like a Karen. Manager over here please. Between the talk sung verses that are atrocious and one of the most irritating choruses of 2020, Haley just does not get the messaging right, and it's rather gross and insulting. Even if the lyrics weren't there, this song would still be a mess, because there's a baby squealing for God knows what reason other than to annoy. So yeah, not a good song. Not as bad as this next spot though. At number 4, it is Kflay, and no duh. For this track, there are looped vocal lines of la la la's mixed just as loud as the rap verses, and they are very distracting. Solely focusing on the rap flows, if you're able to do that though, they are super basic and plainly delivered. I don't even know if I should be taking this song seriously or not. It may just be a track to criticize rappers that brag all the time, and now we're hearing the same from an alternative rock artist. One thing's for sure, the lyrics are as mindless and as braggadocious as you would expect, except dumbed down and served with a slice of patronization. It's disgusting. Up at number 3, it is Nowhere Left to Go by Zac Brown. Now, this track was originally released in 2019 until Zac took OneRepublic's Ryan Tedder to court over its creative rights. Zac would eventually re-release this song in 2020, and I'm baffled as to why he fought so hard over this song's rights when it's such a pedestrian exercise of songwriting to begin with. The boom bap to the drums, the overcompressed vocals and instrumental, all capped off by the millennial whoop. Everything's just pointing towards Zac Brown having an identity crisis. Yet he desperately wanted this song instead of Ryan Tedder passing it off to Diplo. I think Ryan did Diplo a favor, but God, is this song terrible, and the lyrics too. Lyrics that lack so much substance, they just say, dance on me, play that song like baby 1, 2, 3. I wish there was more to it, but that's really the song. Ugh. Taking the runner-up positions, it's always an honor, isn't it, to be that close to having the worst song of the year, but you're just not quite there. Terrible in its own rights, though, is 5 More Minutes by Jonas Brothers. Now, this song could easily take me 5 more minutes to discuss, but boiling it down to the Spark Notes edition. Generic at best, this commercialized excuse for a song erupts into a desperate pleading for a girl to stay. The lyrics are very manipulative, whiny, and childish. Throw in some muted guitar at the beginning that is mixed so quietly, the rest of the song just has the Jonas Brothers on top of everything, in front of everything. And from there, it's a wash, rinse, repeat song structure with no imagination that just makes me cringe and maybe cry and die a little inside. But not as much as number one, the worst song of 2020 in my opinion. The only one to plead more desperately than the Jonas Brothers is, fittingly, another JB, the Biebs, Justin Bieber, and this is on Yummy, the country remix featuring Florida Georgia Line. Not like this song was already a flaming heap of garbage to begin with. JB just desperately wanted this song to go to number one for I don't know what reason. You can't fool me though. JB, he had to have laughed while recording his southern drawl in the vocal booth on this one. You'll want to replay the parts where he says stallion, you're, get her done, and 100 racks because it's just too funny. Not to mention the Kflay shout out from Florida Georgia Line. I guess they didn't learn from Kanye's mistakes of 2019. Okay, so terrible lyrics and performance aside, what this song represents for the music industry is also damaging, alarming, dangerous. If you forcefully write a crappy pop song and then try to put a country spin on it when nothing about it begs for that treatment other than for humor or, I don't know, say another drop in the bucket for streaming, we have a problem. Not even the original version is as laughable or as sad as this country remix, by the way. I would very much argue this remix takes the cake for the worst song of 2020. Only fitting that it was hinted way back at the beginning of the calendar year as well. Okay, so we survived. Those are the worst songs of 2020 in my opinion. Make sure you guys sound off down below in the comments. Tell me what you guys think of this list. Whether you agree or disagree, I'm here to engage with you guys. If you'd like to leave a like or subscribe if you're new in town, I'd appreciate that. As always, thanks for watching and have a rockin' day.